I'm 16 years old, and I am negotiating in the lobby of a strip club with a man called Mr. Jack Jack, so I can lose my virginity in a sleazy backstage room. I've snuck down to New York City, 2.5 hours south on the short line bus with my best friend George, who I am in love with, but he does not know this. We are told that we can have the dancer of our choice and a private room for $90 each. $90 for a 16-year-old boy to lose his virginity with a stripper. This seems like quite a bargain to me. My heart is racing. My adrenaline is pumping. This is moving forward. So why do I feel so horribly wrong? I was fighting very hard not to be gay. I had already had a lifetime of feeling different and being bullied because of it. Starting in 5th grade, the first time I picked up the phone and I got mistaken for my mother. This was happening a lot by people who should have known better, like my father. Who I was becoming was definitely clashing with who people wanted me to be. I had a music teacher in elementary school tell me that little boys didn't play the flute when I inquired about playing one. Instead, she told me that little boys played the trumpet or the drums. I was mortified. I didn't want to play the trumpet or the drums. I ended up playing the clarinet because that's what the kid standing next to me was playing. I didn't even know what one was. It's a small town in New York State where sports and football rule. I am the youngest of 3 boys, and ever since I got lost playing hide and seek with my cousin John, and I realized that I didn't really want us to be found, I knew I was probably gay. People told me I was gay constantly. They told me in hallways. They told me out car windows. They told me in gym class. Teachers told my parents at conference night when they said things like, Christopher needs more friends that are boys, and Christopher spends way too much time talking to girls, and other things that sent my poor dad into a tailspin. He just wanted me to fit in. By the time that high school rolled around, I had learned to do just that. I played sports, I lifted weights, I ran, but most importantly, I had learned to keep my secret entirely to myself. My buddy George in high school had a girlfriend, but he spent every weekend at my house. All this girl wanted to do was have sex with him, but for some reason, he was holding out. This made my colossal crush on him only worse. When I broached my idea of a Holden Caulfield, Catcher in the Rye adventure to New York City to lose our virginity, he leapt on it instantaneously. This got me thinking, why doesn't he just have sex with his girlfriend? What was he hiding that a prostitute wouldn't reveal? Maybe he was like me. Had he also been dodging and shifting around in his makeout sessions with girls, petrified that one of their fumbling hands would land on an obviously not hard penis? What's wrong? The girls would ask me. Are you okay? I would cover with everything from a stomachache to Catholicism. Knowing full well that this was another girl that I was never going to call again. Number 6 or 7 on a sexual amends list that was way far ahead in the future. I wasn't cruel. I really liked these girls. I was always hoping that that one would fix me. 2 weeks ago, I had hoped that it was Marlene Hessleitner, a better high school mame to this day I have never seen. At the cast party after the final show, I pulled her aside for some carefully orchestrated time alone so I could finger bang her and gauge just how I felt. Sad and like I needed a moist towelette. Just in case anybody is wondering. The idea of an escapade alone with George in New York City completely made my heart sing, though. I figured, worst come to worst, if we didn't go through with it, at the end of the night, we'd be back at home alone in my bedroom and we'd still be virgins. It seemed like a complete win-win. We clutched our bus tickets in sweaty palms, paranoid that somebody would see us boarding. Finally, 2.5 hours later, here we were in Times Square, in front of the strip club that I had previously scoped out, the one with the neon sign that shouted, live, nude, girls, which I figured was better than dead nude girls. This strip club also offered a porno movie called Little Oral Annie when the women weren't on stage. Luckily, I never got to see it. Here's the thing. Now, I knew that these dancers would go all the way with you if you paid for it and you rented a tiny room in the back. I had been sneaking down to New York City since I was in 8th grade, so I knew the lay of the land. I also knew this because that's what they did around the corner at the Gaiety, the all-male burlesque house, and I had already snuck in there once or twice myself. But that is another story. This is the story about the female club, and I was there because I was convinced that a professional was my only hope of getting fixed. We ended up paying $8, and into the turnstile we went. Immediately, my heart sank. I knew that I was not like the other men inside here. There were a lot of them. George instantly became euphoric and elated, which immediately I did not like. The performers were already on stage. We sat down, and I could see that the men in the audience all had their jaws wide open and their hands mysteriously disappeared below their lap. I was concerned for the girls on stage. I was thinking, are they actresses? Are they runaways? Do they want to be up on that stage? Needless to say, nothing was stirring in my pants. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity of blondes and buxom and vagina, the announcer called Baby, and a completely different type of girl, really, came to the stage. She was dark and distant and completely uninterested, if possible, even less interested than I was. She kept her eyes on the ceiling, completely refusing to play to the crowd, and I thought to myself, that is the girl for me. Afterward, in the lobby, Mr. Jack waved us over. He knew a couple of easy marks when he saw them. We negotiated, which means he said $90, and we said, fine. And the next thing I knew, I was watching the small of George's back walk away from me as he left with a stripper named Daisy. Suddenly, here I was, in this sad little side room off of the main venue, with a bare mattress on the floor, with a apple crate, with a lamp, with a light bulb, with no shade. Pure Charles Dickens squalor. All that was missing was a crust of bread. I could hear, as George, the object of my every secret carnal desire, lost his virginity quite loudly, with a German explosion called Daisy just opposite the wall to my right. My heart could barely stand it. This was my last-ditch effort. Baby looked like Coco from Fame, which I had seen 14 times. She looked at me, and she smiled, and I lifted her chin, and I kissed her. It was sweet, which I knew was probably wrong, so I pressed down hard with passion. I took her, pretending that she was George, not the stripper crushing George in the next room, but the one who came over after my house to practice and asked me for a t-shirt to borrow. I couldn't get past my nerves. The voices of coaches, of brothers, of God. The pressure exploding inside of my head that made everything go limp down below in my loins. It sucked because I truly believed that if I couldn't perform with Baby, then I might as well just pack it in. I would be gay. I would be a social pariah, what I'd always been told was the lowest of the low. Finally, I stopped. I couldn't avoid her hands any longer. Nothing she did made a difference. My dick was a dismal wreck. There was nothing to do but roll off of her and crumble in a ball at her feet. Are you gay? She asked me in a voice so soft, suddenly she was my mother. Yes, I said to her. Before I could even think, it flew out of my mouth. There it was, out loud, for the first time, for somebody else to mock and judge me. It's okay, she said to me. And with her hand, she succinctly dismissed my angst so quickly that I had no other choice but to believe her. She meant it. Suddenly, out the window, I could hear taxis and laughter and night, a metropolis filled with possibility. She was right. I knew in that moment that all I had to do was get out of where I was going and get to where I needed to be. She was wise to the future. It was okay. It was the best $90 that I ever spent. Baby showed me it is okay. Thank you.